2, 1. We're live from the Pocono Underground with Rich, Stremme, and all the cats. Agate marbles. What is an agate marble? Sometimes you get stowaway stone agate marbles in your marbles haul, and you're not exactly sure what you're looking at. So today we're going to break down what agate marbles are.
So one of the early distinctions that we make, if you get marbles in your collection that are stone, likely either you have a hand-faceted antique agate, which is great find and old and whatever, or you have a modern mineral sphere, which can also be really great, neat, and way different variety.
So now, and agates are, it's actually quartz, really. I mean, physically it's quartz, which is calcium carbonate, which, by the way, is the same elements that are made with glass marbles, machine-made marbles. So facets are actually, they're cuts,
right,
are they not?
Yeah, so easy way or obvious way to look at them. So we have a piece of quartz here, like what they call a quartz point, right? And a facet is each one of the flat planes, right, on any kind of gem, right, or mineral. So quartz crystal. Here's another type of crystal. Here's this is again natural facets, but it's a Herkimer diamond.
Okay.
Found either in Herkimer, New York, and Fonda, or South Africa. Only 2 places in the world you can find them. Kind of neat dual terminated crystals. So unlike quartz, it's not like somebody chipped it out off of a matrix, right? These, when you actually find them and you find a pocket, they'll just fall out. They're in dolomite and then this black powder, and and each one natural facet. So these crystals will have 18 facets if you have a fully formed Herkimer diamond. So kind of neat. So
very neat.
In this case,
those are natural fault lines, really.
And just remember, we've heard facets like talked about with jewelry all the time, like diamonds, when they come out, rubies. They're all cut by jewelers and faceted, and it's always to embellish the gem, to make it refract the glass and glisten and sparkle.
Oh, for the eye appeal.
Yeah, but think in marble making, it's basically like the goal of making the marble round from like a cube or a different shape. So faceting is done for the secondary effect of making the overall thing round, instead of drawing attention to the facets to make it glisten and be polished. So the facets on marbles will be like more discreet, more disguised, because the goal is to make the thing round. And I've always loved agates, and I guess the starting point for telling old agate from new stone sphere or new agate is going to be facets. If you could see that little bit of light, right? It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It kind of like, it has a pretty smooth flow over it, and you don't, like every now and then you might see a little flicker, but it's generally smooth across. That makes me say, if this one is vintage, it's probably like 30s, 40s, something like that. Like it has remnants maybe of facets, but then we look at your other one, right?
All right.
And see how the light, if you follow the same thing, that same little dot of light, you could see how it's like there's bounces, a line there, there's a facet there. Exactly.
It ripples a different... a different way. Oh yeah, you could see like ripples. Yep. That's a really good example of what's going on here visually.
It's early. It just dances, and you could see like there's...
That's old.
Yep. And they'll always have that same type of, like I call it tight faceting.
Okay.
This, just for a little, that's the crystalline matrix on one side.
Okay.
And that's just a part of the natural stone.
Basically a bullseye with the carnelian color, right?
Yep.
And that can be assigned to an older marble. Is that what we're saying?
Hand-faceted, yep. Okay. Only antique agates will be hand-faceted, like 1880s to early 1900s, in that way, that the light kind of refracts around it and does that little,
Yeah, it's cool looking.
Yeah, yep.
And you don't see that in modern stuff because it's polished too much, right?
Yeah. Like you see nothing. You don't see that line dance.
Dance,
and do any kind of, it just kind of flows right across. Neat, super pretty colors, super crude stone, because it's still agate. So it's still like, a neat thing. But if you watch the light side by side, look at that one. You can really see the ripples.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Rotate around. While the one on the left, not so much. You can't. That's the difference between antique agate, hand-faceted antique, versus modern tumbled.
Right.
And once you get familiar, you could kind of see, like, this is too high gloss. This has like a matte sort of finish.
Wow. Thank you.
So that's,
Rich.
yeah, right on. Here's the most confusing to get in because this is a modern agate.
Okay.
The Bullseye style, same agate style as older, right? Same, you know, same color, same composition, basically. And if you look at this one, if you watch the light, it's like it almost stretches and moves. You see how, like, between the white and the other goes, like these, it's a modern agate, but you could see how the facets don't look at all like those tight little ripples that run across the marble. They just look kind of like bigger planes that were smoothed out in a different way that almost looks like it got melted or something, even though it wasn't. It has that melty look to it. That's modern.
Modern.
Yep.
That would have been polished or, right?
Polished,
put it in a polish?
Tumbled. Yeah, I'm not really 100% on, I know, like, if we go back to the black book, it's got the water and the grind wheel and that stuff.
But the older one, the antiques aren't polished that way. And that's why you see the rippling, I'm thinking, right?
It just, I think the grind wheel was tighter. Like, it was a process that was probably more done by hand and then turned later, like, somehow to be tumbled more, that the person was taken out of it. That's what I'm suspecting.
That's
all these
wild. These are all older here?
All old, yep. All antique agates.
Beautiful.
And neat. There's such a variety. That's a cool thing why I got into agates, because you have, like, look, you have peewees. I mean, peewee banded bullseye. How cool.
These are dyed, right? So there's some porous qualities, right? To the to the quartz.
Yeah, I don't know how they dye though.
Yeah,
like I don't know that process, but
yeah, and so they flavor it with color there.
Yep.
Wow, these are all 1800s.
The yellow one is a flint, and the rest of them are agates. Years ago, Gene Mason had these black ones, but they were bigger than regulation.
Oh,
I had a guy in Tennessee round them down.
He ground up. Oh, I see.
And they.
That's stone agate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty damn cool looking too. Yeah. You shoot with those?
Yeah.
Good deal. You're a referee?
Yep.
What's your name?
Bill Bosch.
Good man, Bill. West Virginia, right?
West Virginia.
Good man. Yeah. Yes, man, that's awesome. Do it again. Good shot. Who else wants to shoot? We're filming for YouTube.
I don't YouTube before. I lost my mom.
this is a great example of facets on a handmade German marble. So you can kind of see how there's little flat, tiny little planes. It's not ground. And you could see how the light, right, it reflects and it almost looks like little mini mirrors, each facet that it hits. So in handmade marbles, neat thing, if you have a faceted panel marble, you know it's pre-1880s. It's earlier. Ground panel, closer to turn of the century, later. A lot of times, like when you see handmade marbles that are hand faceted from that era, they're like, you know, a little more quality marble, like in the designs and whatever. You could tell more time was spent on them.
Hi, Clovis. How are you today? You happy?
Shared terminology, right? And we could just rotate around. You got acro moss agates, right?
Right.
And then we have a traditional, that's a moss agate, right? Remember we saw that earlier on the bottom of the box.
Yeah,
moss
there's
agate.
that green.
Now you can see why fewer of these made, super rare to find, because how dynamic is that compared to that? Carnelians, right? Same thing.
Okay.
Carnelians, both of these hand faceted antique agates, stone marbles, and then
some examples of acros.
Carnelians.
Nod
as well as,
to the carnelian name.
And carnelian oxblood. And like, again, like just the features of both, like if you saw those side by side, they're so similar. There's no way that there wasn't a, you know,
right. And you've got some bricks here that are also very similar in coloration.
And then we got, you brought these over, right? What are these?
Where are we
Vitro
at?
bullseyes.
Oh, the Bullseye. Yeah, that was Vitro's nod to the old Bullseye nickname.
Yeah.
So the Bullseye has one patch surrounded by one circle, creating generally a bullseye look, and they're mimicking the old
Bullseye agates. Yeah. And then finally, in our last little quadrant area,
Okay.
you just have like banded agates, right? So these three antique hand faceted old agates, right?
On the left, yeah.
Yep. These you brought over. These are modern agates. Again, we could tell when you spin them. That
There's
light
no
just,
dancing.
Yeah, right, right. No dancing. The only time you'll see that is on little, like, if there's cracks in the matrix of the marble.
Okay.
Like on this one, you might see
Imperfections, right.
Yeah. But the neat thing is, like, if you check out how fine those lines are, right? On this, it's crazy. Does that show it?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm up and on
almost optical illusion with all those, you know. Next to it, you have a Christensen, you know, electric kind of layered sandish style. I mean, how can you not? Same thing.
Yeah,
And
that's their way of replicating what the kids were used to playing with, those old stone agates a little bit,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I
That's
think
a
so.
crazy blended Marble King Spider-Man. But look at the different colors and the striations and lines all over the place. Here are 100 years later, right?
Yeah,
A turn of this century, approximately 2000. These are Vacourda, Mexico agates. They call them agates.
this is an exceptionally rare banded fuzzy black agate that I've named Clovis.
That's Miss Clovis.
Yep, an exceptionally juicy fuzzy agate.
All right, agate values. How much
Yeah.
are these jobs worth?
So one of the great things about like hunting them right now is because people tune in and tune out of marbles a lot. Like you might notice with handmades, like Indians or
Right.
something that commanded a certain like book price for a long time and then sort of fell out of vogue, and you could find them around for like
Yeah.
$20 instead of $50. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that kind of deal.
Yeah, they go
Same
in and
thing.
out of style a little
Agates get like overlooked a little because they're non-glass. And you get a lot of, like, as that block book mentioned, there was a lot of imports of agates. So a lot of like plain Jane agates and then exceptional agates. So same leeway with agates, same aesthetic or same principles that you put on pricing for other marbles, size, and then
Pattern,
eye appeal.
right.
Harder to
Eye
find
appeal.
damage on agates because a lot of times they didn't, you know, take to get moons and hits as easy as glass.
They're more durable.
But people are critical of inclusions in agates, like any kind of natural stuff. Like, for example, like I love this just because of color, because I never ran across that in an old agate. But this would be like your $10, $15 agate because it's just doesn't have a particularly awesome pattern. It's not dyed. It's
Right.
old. I love the color. But, you know, it's
Not very
Yep, not dynamic,
engaging.
not super. But your average agates, you could still run across 20, you know, even 10 to like $30 for an average example of agates. Once you get into dyed agates, it's basically like green and blue are, I would say, equally rare. I've seen more green than blue. In my experience, like little greens were between 50 and $100. Larger ones, 100 to 175. Same thing true with blue, but a little rarer. So like this to me is, you know, $150, $175 agate. Great size, super great color.
7/8 maybe that one.
Yep. Most expensive blue I saw sell was a super bullseye style with the crystalline matrix at one end. That was a total bullseye like yours. And it was a little bigger than 3/4, but it was perfect bullseyes. And that was always the old aesthetic for people paying for agates. They want the super bullseye
Yeah,
to be
nice
perfect.
round.
So the most I saw a blue agate actually sell for was $400.
Whoa.
I
Now, I mean, these
passed-
are rare though. I mean,
Totally.
right? I mean, they're
and
not.
they're
not
the
like,
rarest of like.
Yeah.
There's no level higher than those that I'm aware of. Like I passed once at an old New England show in Massachusetts. I saw a yellow agate that was 13/16 dyed yellow, beautiful. The asking price was $500. I had no idea that agates were even worth hundreds, let alone 500. But I never again saw a yellow agate ever. Like that was the one time only. super duper rare, you know.
And pretty.
Before moss agate, right? Super rare to find because they didn't make as many because they weren't as flashy and whatever.
Supply and demand. I
But
mean,
to get this cost me $200. Little bandeds like peewee, you know, that might be a $40 agate, you know.
Okay.
It's all kind of subjective, but it's really the quality of like the bullseye, the banding, and then what you like, because you're like, this is another real, you know, little bullseye. This is another super kind of plain Jane. It's just gray, but I never had a gray agate before, and I was like, wow, I think that cost me $10, and I was thrilled by it.
Sure.
Just because, so it's great. You have a spread that's natural agate with one, you know, really pretty off looking band. I would put that around like $75, $85 agate.
Yeah, that's just natural artwork there.
Yep. And your dyes, you have like dyed black, dyed blue, dyed green, right? So blues,
and then
greens.
the yellows are super
The yellow,
different.
I don't have an example. I saw one once and super rare, very expensive.
Man.
And, you know, I regret not getting that one because it was really neat. Other thing cool to find are the whites, like versions of whites are really cool too. That's another early, you know,
cream and bright white.
Yep. But again, those, I think they are closer to like American river agates and stuff, which again, once you get into these, then you really have to look at facets versus like modern
polishing,
goopy Like I say, even though these are plain Jane, these are all antique. This one is modern, but wow, the color palette is like exact. And this one has a stronger pattern than any of these. So it almost like defies where you want to think this is antique. But these, and that's what the thing, you always, if you just, you swirl them in your hand.
Those circles are very attractive, and they're really circular. I mean, they're...
Yep, that's why bullseyes.
They're gorgeous.
You know?
Look at this thing. Boom. And then some of the more modern spheres, these are just 10 to 20 bucks, right? No
depending
real
on
value.
size. But I mean, they're neat to collect, and you can still find, like, they did facet and shape earlier, you know, other minerals into round spheres. It's just like agates were what they made marbles of. You can find like goldstone antique with facets.
Yeah.
You can find tiger eye with facets, but a lot of times those were intended to be beads or finials on things. They were just undrilled. So you still have, like, you can find antique, you know, marble round guys, but they weren't particularly intended to be marbles. Agates were the
like
only
the
ones.
feet of your old chair there.
Yep.
Right, there's a
Yep.
example
Use
of
of
clear sphere. Wow, well, Rich, thank you so much for that tutorial on agates. I really need to see this in live, you know, in front of my own eyeballs to understand some of it. So thank you very much. And thank you for watching Vintage Machine Made Marbles.
Right, Clovis?
oh yeah.